Hello, welcome to CRPS Contender, my complex regional pain syndrome education channel. Today's video is how others can help you. Tips and tricks, interpersonal, outward in, for caregivers. This video is part of my Mind is Matter mega series, and this particular subsection is on how to compensate for neurodegeneration as a caregiver. Now, I know I don't talk to caregivers too much on this channel because I'm really more oriented on the CRPS patients and individuals. But I do think it is important to discuss how you can best assist someone who is dealing with their brain dissolving. What can you do to give them help and make them feel supported, cared for, and loved without feeling smothered, condescended to, or entirely dependent upon you? First thing I want to talk about doesn't even involve the other person. It involves you. And these are things you can do for yourself that you don't need any interactions with this other person with to do. First, educate yourself about CRPS. Do not depend on the CRPS patient to explain to you the science behind what they're experiencing. Now, of course, you want them to tell you what they are experiencing personally, but they should not need to justify their disease to you. Go ahead, show the initiative, and educate yourself about what is going on physically and psychologically with this disorder. Understand how it affects mood and changes personality. Be realistic in your expectations and understand your own emotional limits. Take breaks for yourself when necessary. The person with CRPS has to deal with it always, but you do not, and it is not necessary that you are constantly exposed to it. You are not the one who has it, and maybe you love them and maybe you live with them, but they are not you. It is an overwhelming disorder that bleeds into every single aspect of life, but it is not your life and it is not your responsibility. Take breaks for yourself when you are getting overwhelmed. Do not put that stress on the CRPS patient because that will be very, very negative for them and have far-reaching consequences. So if you are hitting your limitation, step back, take a break, and come back when you are better within your limits. Plan for daily exercise and eat healthily. Your health is very important. Develop a personal support plan. Burnout is real, and you cannot help anybody else if you cannot help yourself. So make sure that you have your own support structure in place so that when you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and you probably will, you have somewhere to go that is safe for you, so you are not dumping stress that the CRPS is creating for you back onto the CRPS patient. Okay? So now let's move on to ways that you can better assist them practically. Routines and fear. Prepare for the future. CRPS makes it so that it is very difficult to plan and to see into the future and to think long term. You just need to understand that this is not something they have any control over and somewhere that they're likely going to struggle. So it will be in their best interest to have someone who is able to assist them in making these more long-term sorts of goals. Have an open and honest discussion about how this person is struggling and then help problem solve and motivate. This can be a difficult thing to do if the CRPS patient doesn't want to open up. And based on my own personal thoughts on the types of people who develop CRPS, they're probably not going to want to open up. They're probably going to say something along the lines of, "It's fine, I can handle it," or "It's not such a big deal," or "Let's focus on you," or something else to turn attention away from themselves or to not be vulnerable, to not feel exposed. So don't force that. If you try to force someone to be vulnerable, you're just going to make them clam up tighter, alright? So this is something that needs to be done with care and should not be forced. Learn how to handle aggressive or combative behavior. It usually stems from fear. CRPS means that a person is living in a state of constant trauma. And people who live in constant trauma are afraid. And people don't always respond to that the same way. But two of the major ways are to either lash out aggressively or to shut down and dissociate. So prepare yourselves for those sorts of responses and find ways to handle them in a positive way, to bring the person back to a more safe and secure frame of mind. If the person gets agitated or upset, change the subject or change the environment. Distract and redirect. Develop predictable routines and schedules. Break activities into series of steps that are easily understood and not complex. Don't argue with the person about things they forgot. Communication. Make sure to grab their attention and limit distractions and noises before talking to them. Their field of perception is massive. They are very acutely attuned to smells and sounds and visuals, and it can be very overwhelming because they are living in a constant state of fight or flight, where their perception fields are massive and they're always looking for threats. So you want to make sure that they are actually focusing on you when you're talking to them so that they can comprehend what you're saying. Use multiple methods of communication: touch, visual, audio, written things. Use repetition and visual cues. State your message clearly using simple words and sentences, lowering your pitch and not raising it. When you're raising your pitch, you're encouraging that sympathetic activity to get up and going, and we do not want that. We want to encourage parasympathetic, calming, securing, and safe sensations and states. Also, while you're being clear and simple with your language, don't be condescending. Lots of CRPS patients are adults, many times young adults, who are already dealing with a sense of losing their cognitive capabilities, which is very, very, very hard. So don't make them feel like they're stupid when you're talking to them. Ask simple, answerable questions one at a time. Ask a question, let them answer. Ask your next question if you have another one, and let them answer. And if you still have another question, ask it after they're done. Don't just rapid fire a bunch of questions at them and expect them to remember it all or be able to give you coherent, comprehensive answers. Strive to understand the meaning and feelings that underlie the words, because communication and word recall can be very challenging because those areas of the brain are being damaged and are becoming dysfunctional. So they might not be able to say exactly what it is that they mean because the words that they want just won't come to them. It doesn't mean you need to talk over them or try to Google autofill what you think they want. Just be silent, let them think about it, and if they can't quite get what they're wanting, make a gentle suggestion that they can either go with or say, no, that's not exactly what I mean, and guiding rather than trying to take over. Accept them as they are. Meet them as they are now and not as they were before, because their capabilities are going to be very different. This doesn't mean they're stupid. This doesn't mean they're incompetent. This doesn't mean they cannot do worthwhile, engaging, and positive things to impact the world. This just means they need to adjust the way in which they operate. And if you are constantly expecting them to be the way that they were, it's just going to set up an expectation that they won't be able to meet. That will make them very frustrated and feel like a failure. You do not want these people to feel like failures. They are already fighting against everything, basically. And when people around them constantly make them feel inadequate, they are much more likely to commit suicide. Acknowledge that things can change day to day, even minute to minute, depending on the state of their nervous system. Let them be independent when possible, and as much as possible. Set a positive mood with your attitude, body language, tone of voice, expression, and mannerisms. This does not mean create a false sense of positivity, but when you can be positive, do be positive, as long as you mean it genuinely. Maintain your sense of humor, but never at the other person's expense. Encourage laughter, but don't laugh at them. Respond with affection and reassurance. Make them feel safe, secure, loved, appreciated, seen, and heard, and that they can express themselves to you without having to be inauthentic. Be patient and compassionate. Compassion is something I want to talk about. Compassion means to suffer with. Maybe you can't empathize and feel what they're going through, but you don't need to. You just need to be able to sympathize, to psychologically understand, even if you can't emotionally feel it, and understand that they're suffering and that you're going to be there with them while they're doing it. That is what compassion is, and they need it. They need compassion. Encourage fun, laughter, and joy. This is a disease that leaves you in the dark and gives you no hope and no thoughts for the future. We want to encourage these people to engage in life and give them strong anchors and ties that make them want to keep going on. So as much as you can, encourage those positive emotions, that sense of fun and joy that comes in engaging in life. If you would like more information, I have linked in the description below sources. This is going to be the whole source sheet, which is several pages long. This is going to be more at the bottom, where I have several links for caregivers specifically that get a lot more in detail than what I covered here. So if you would like further assistance, you're not quite sure where to get started, go ahead and check out that link at the bottom. Go to the bottom of that pages, and you'll find a section just for you on different things that you can do to better assist people with CRPS, whether you're their caregiver or just someone that they know. Alright, I hope this helps you. I hope this can get you started in a way to positively interact with people with CRPS without making them feel incompetent or unworthy or like a failure. And I hope this can help you better take care of yourself as well. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the content I'm creating here, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you'd like to contribute to my Patreon, that is linked below. And as always, all relevant sources will be linked in the description. I hope you learned something today, and I hope to see you next time.